Everybody here? Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this celebration of life of Mike Levitt. My name is Bob Greer, and it's my privilege and my honor to serve as the Master of Ceremonies for this time of honoring Mike. I would like to acknowledge first that Mike's wife, Pat, is with us here today, with us as we all share her pain, her sorrow. And we're all here with full hearts and numb minds. I first would like to express the Levitt family's gratitude for your presence here now. Your presence helped them realize how important Mike was to you and the impact he's had on your life, all of our lives. So we're here to celebrate his life, but we don't just mourn his death. We celebrate all the years that preceded him, all the years we learned to know him and receive his love and his attention and his care. Mike Levitt has made a special part in all of our lives. And he was many things to many people. He was a leader. He was a good friend. And a steady hand. Helped us all grow, not just in business, but in his friendship. My friendship began with Mike over 50 years ago, when he was just forming the Michaels Development Company. And my journey with Mike over those 50 years has just been amazing. The best experiences of my life. Today we'll pause to hear stories, acknowledge how we are all different because Mike came into our lives. We all have great love for Mike. And this time together is important to all of us. I'd like to begin by taking a moment of quiet reflection as we listen to some music being provided to us today by Chaz Ramos, Phoebe Washburn, Sarah Davies, and Art Washburn. So if they could come up and take their position, we will take a moment for some music. Thank you.
Obviously very professional. So watch our trail. Mike loved music, and he loved when we played for him. So, this is too hard already. We picked a couple songs just to, and they asked me to play with them. And these songs have, they have meaning, they have depth, and they have a lot of significance for us, not just because of the fact that Mike used to love hearing them, but what they say as we say our goodbyes. There is a ship, and she sails the sea.
loaded deep as deep can give, but not as deep as the love I'm in. I know not if I sink or swim. I lean my back against an oak, thinking it was a trusty tree, but first it bent and then it broke, and so my love grew false to me. Oh, love be gentle and love be kind, gay as a flower when first it blooms, but love grows old and then grows cold and fades away like the morning dew. The river is deep, I cannot get o'er, neither have I the wings to fly, but give me a boat that can carry two, and we both shall row, my love and I. There is a ship and she sails the sea. She's loaded deep as deep can be, but not as deep as the love I'm in. I know not if I sink or swim.
Thank you for that beautiful music. Thank you for the time you put together to bring it to us today. And now it's time for me to introduce our first speaker. And our first speaker is someone we all know and respect. He's a person who consistently demonstrated his commitment to Mike Levitt, the whole organization, and all of us who work with him. Working at Mike's side, he assumed the responsibility for the operations of the company, its growth, and its transition from a regional company to a national organization. And that was a difficult task. So many obstacles. And he overcame them all. And today his leadership has succeeded in achieving Mike's big dreams and his vision for the housing development and supporting programs for the residents who we serve in these housing programs. He's an inspiration to us all. And I'm very proud to welcome my friend and the Chief Executive Officer of the Michaels Organization, John O'Donnell.
So Bob basically said that word for word what I asked him to say, so thank you, Bob. And before I start, this is a huge effort to put this on tonight. And it worked out spectacularly. So I'd like to thank our facilities team, our marketing team, Lexi Norcross, George Loesch, and especially Kelly. Thank you all. So I sincerely appreciate you all being here to celebrate Mike and his legacy. So normally I would prescribe the George Norcross wear, shirt, jacket, no tie, but not tonight. So I said to myself, and as an ode to Mike, not that I'm comparing myself to Mike's flair of fashion, I can either do two things. One, wear his iconic fishing Speedo, or two, go with the tufts with purple and red. You're welcome. So I was thinking, how do I sum up my 30-year relationship with Mike, 30-plus year relationship with Mike, and its profound impact on myself, my family, and literally thousands of others. Mike was a mentor to me for over 30 years, second only to my father, who was a legend in his own right. One of Mike's most important lessons he's taught me how to fail. He told me very young, very early on in the early 90s, there's no mistake that I can make that he can't undo. So think about that. Just think about how powerful that is. If someone actually gave you that, what would you attempt to do if you couldn't fail? It's limitless, right? It's limitless in what you can achieve. He gave that power not only to me, to everybody at Michael's. Go grow, go make mistakes, go fall off the horse. And he always said, I got your back. I got your back is one of our core values in our organization, and it stems from those feelings from Mike. Basically said, hey, I'm supporting you no matter what. You want to make mistakes, you want to fail, but I'll be there to get you back up on the horse and pat you on the butt and say, keep going. Mike is truly a legend. He is someone who transcends life, someone who rose above and went beyond ordinary limits. Mike did that in his entire life, every single day. So to start with fishing. Mike was an international icon in sport fishing. All over the world, everyone knew who Mike Levitt was. At his pinnacle, he held 15 marlin fishing records, 15 more than anybody else in the world at the time. Just simply amazing. He was a pioneer in lake tackle fishing, and he's a member of the IDFA Fishing Hall of Fame. So I guess probably for 30-some years, Mike would take a bunch of teammates fishing. At first, it was only 3 or 4 of us. Then it grew to 20, 30, and I think it's up to 50. But every single year, we would go, and half the people there had never caught a fish in their life. Mike would sit there with his Macallan, one ice cube, and would sit there as the godfather, and everybody just came out and told their stories about this is how I caught my first fish. And he literally did that for hundreds of teammates every single year. And it was just his gift and love of fishing that he wanted to share with all of us. So when it ties into another core value, go out a little further. When Mike was a young boy in Atlantic City, he would take his rowboat, literally go out by himself and go fish. The next day, next week, we'd go out a little bit further. Week after that, he would go out a little bit further. Why? Because that's where the fish were. Mike went out a little bit further every single day of his life, every aspect of his life. Affordable housing. Mike was the pioneer in affordable housing, started in the 1960s. Mike built Michaels, along with Bob, into the largest owner, developer, and manager of affordable housing in the country. To no one's surprise, Mike is also a member of the Affordable Housing Hall of Fame. So let that sink in, right? So for Funny Fish, for business, he grew affordable housing. Both of them, he's in their Hall of Fames. Not many people can say that. Bob, by the way, is also in the Affordable Housing Hall of Fame. Bob also asked me to say those things about him too, so it was all mutual. So Mike was a key contributor to the creation of state housing finance agencies. Back in the late 80s, he started the first supportive housing program. in the country, this public in the country, he saw needs for our residents. He started programs that HUD started in the late 1980s, and it goes on through today all over the country. And it just keeps getting better. Pat and Mike also established the first scholarship program for affordable housing in the country. Like in the country. Think about how powerful that is. So it ties in with their philanthropy. Mike White said the best gift is the gift of an education. Mike and Pat have literally affected thousands and thousands of families. So many children on our properties, they first to go to college. So that family is affected, their family's going to be affected, and it's a generational change. The effect, Pat, that you and Mike had on literally thousands of families continuing forward is just amazing. Their philanthropy knows no bounds. It's $20 million and counting. Pat, best decision Mike ever made. You and Mike were truly a team. His success was your success. And Pat, you're truly a champion of paying it forward. You truly are our Jackie O. You both built an empire based in compassion, strength, and courage. When I first started working for Mike directly many moons ago, he soon realized one of his worst fears. He was now surrounded by Irish Catholics. Mike never had a chance. So one fishing story. So we're in the Dominican Republic, and it's all on the Tyson Pride. And Mike had a sailfish on with light tackle. So you catch it with light tackle, you have to be really careful how you reel it in. So you have to have a really good captain. So Captain Terry from the Tyson Pride started backing down. So basically you have to go chase the fish. So he started backing down very quickly. A big wave comes in the transom and knocks Mike over. And I happened to be right behind him, so I actually caught him. So I caught him, he's half submerged, his head's up, his reel is up in the air, and he's reeling, and his line is tight. The man always kept his line tight. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is Mike's life in a nutshell. Always focused, working hard, and when he gets knocked over, he's at his best. So please honor Mike's legacy. Go out a little further, make your own mark in life, make plenty of memories, and have a positive influence on someone's life. Love you, Mikey.
Thanks, John. It's been a pleasure knowing you and working with you all these years. I began my career with Mike, as I said, 50 years ago, and our first meeting was in the Atlantic City office of Interstate Realty Management Company. The then president of IRM was Nelson Morgan, and he gave me a warm welcome and began telling me all the history of Mike Levin. I soon learned about his family. And when Nelson came into the room, he filled the room with his presence. We began talking, and then in particular, about his son, Mark Morgan, who at the time was helping Interstate with yard maintenance and mowing lawns. It was a long time ago. Since then, I've watched this man grow and learn more about the business, and always reaching for more responsibility. Over the years of growing and waiting and learning, as the company grew in size, so did Mark Morgan. And he ultimately became the president of Interstate Realty Management Company, working closely, of course, with John O'Donnell. And how pleased I am now to welcome our next speaker, who is now the president of the Michaels organization, Mark Morgan.
We have to take him on the road with us to introduce us from now on. Mike Levitt was the most loyal and generous man I've ever known. And that's what I would tell everybody who never had the pleasure of meeting him when they would ask you about him. And in over 50 years of knowing him, I've witnessed countless, and I mean countless acts of loyalty and generosity to family, friends, teammates, and even strangers. Just amazing. So I thought tonight I would just give you a couple personal stories of how I experienced that loyalty and generosity in my life. So as Bob said, my father was involved in the early 70s. Mike and my father were partners in the property management company that was running Mike's growing portfolio at the time. And they were doing well, and he worked for him for a number of years. And I remember coming home from college on break sometime in the early 80s, and my father announcing, Mark, I'm going to sell my interest in the company to Mike. And I looked at him and I said, why would you want to do that, Dad? Wouldn't it make more sense to hold on to it? And he said, well, Mark, I'm getting ready to retire. And Mike talked to me, he wants to consolidate his holdings and start some, estate planning for the family. And he said, and you have to understand, Mark, Mike is the managing general partner of every single property that we manage. And if he wanted to, he could simply cancel the contracts, form a new property management firm, assign the contracts to the new firm, invite all the employees to come work for him, and I'd be left holding ownership of a worthless company. And then he said, but Mike would never do that to me. Mike would never do that to me. And right there, I knew that he felt Mike's friendship and Mike's loyalty, and it's just tremendous. And the sale went through, and it turned into a lifetime annuity for my mother and father that helped them enjoy a comfortable retirement for the rest of their days. And I gotta say, my family's so thankful for that. So let's fast forward to 2010. My wife and I decided we want to take our family on a vacation out west. And we're doing a little research, trying to think where we want to go, what we want to do. I remembered Mike had taken his family on a trip down the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. And I thought, well, let me go find out about that, because that sounds pretty cool. So I popped into his office. I said, hey, Mike, Libby and I are thinking of taking the family out west. And I know you did that trip down the Colorado River. How was it? And he says, Mark, sit down. And he just lit up. He says, oh, Mark, best trip I ever did in my life. It was unbelievable. He says, the guys took us, they went down to the river, we'd get in a raft, and they'd send a couple guys in a raft down the river ahead of us, and he'd set up camp for the night. And we would leisurely sail down the river, looking up at all the beauty of the canyon and the beautiful area. We'd pull off, we would have lunch on the side of the river. It was just fantastic. And then we'd get to our camp for the evening, they'd have dinner prepared for us. And it was just unbelievable. And at night, you could sleep in a tent, or you could take your cot out and open it up and sleep under the stars. And then he said, and they give you a shovel and an inflatable donut. You have to go to the bathroom, you go into the bushes, you dig a hole, you do your business, you bury it up. And I'm picturing Mike Levin doing that and thinking, and this is the best trip he ever did. I said, it must have been really something. And then he said to me, Mark, your family, you have to experience it. And he said, in fact, I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to pay for you to take that trip. And it just blew me away. And I said, well, who did you use? And he went into his Rolodex and he pulled the card out. And he said, you call this number, you set it up, you tell them I'm paying for it, I'm going to take care of this for you. Just blew me away. And I went back to my office excited. I called, and within about 2 minutes, I figured out that my youngest was too young to go on the trip. So we had to pass. And so I went back to his office and I said, Mike, my youngest is too young. I'm not going to have to pass. It's such a generous offer. Thank you so much. And in a very Mike-like way, he looked at me and said, oh, okay. And moved on, never to be spoken of again. But that was Mike for sure. On the day of his passing, Joey Lynch texted me, and I guess he had heard some rumblings. He said, has Mike passed? And I said, unfortunately, yes. And he responded with something that I thought summed it up pretty well. He said, what a privilege and honor it was to have been in his orbit. And I think anybody that spent a minute in that man's orbit would agree to that. So I think I'll end it by just saying, thank you, Mike, for everything. And may you rest in peace.
Thanks, Mike, or Mark. It's a great time to listen to all these stories. Everybody's got one when it comes to Mike Levitt. We're all so blessed to have experienced such encouragement and happiness in life. Our next speaker is a person. Every company needs to have one person who understands company dreams and fiscal responsibility. Our next speaker is that person. Over the years, he's assumed a growing commitment to Mike, starting as an outside accountant, and then over the years transitioning to become the chief financial officer of the Michaels Company. This position, CFO, is a position without a time clock. It's always there and always demanding and always looking for guidance. It's really the heartbeat of the company. He's always balancing sources and uses to achieve all these hot ideas developers come up with. And there's no better person to represent this financial success that Mike Levitt's organization has enjoyed than our next speaker. He's a close personal friend of Mike's. And it's my pleasure to welcome here the Chief Financial Officer, Joe Purcell.
Just to start, as both John and Claire said to me today, my chances of getting through this unemotionally is nil. So please bear with me. I just want to start by saying I am so sorry to Pat and the entire Levitt family for their loss. Dan, when you start talking about Mike Levitt, he was the best. He was my hero. Mike did so much for so many, including me and my family. Mike and John hired me in June of 2001, and I told Mike then it would be the last job I ever had. How could I say that? I knew Mike, and I knew what Mike stood for. He was smart, he was loyal, he was honest, and the most generous person I ever met. Mike was not only my boss, Mike became my mentor, my fishing buddy, and my friend. In business, he taught me what was important. Work hard, be honest, and get to the point. Fishing, oh my God. He took this Philly road home kid all over the world to fish. Brazil, Venezuela, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Cancun, Alaska. Unbelievable. And taught me and many others how to fish. When Mike always said to me while we were fishing, what we are doing now, most lifetime fishermen would only dream of. And of course, Mike was right. In addition, if you caught a fish, you'd be so excited, but then you would look over to Mike, and he was even more excited for you than you were. Mike was a big-time reader. Mike shared so many books with me. I would be constantly reading to keep up with the backlog of books on my night table. Thanks to Mike, I believe I read every book David McCullough ever wrote. No exaggeration. We would talk about the books afterwards. Mike never gave me a bad book. We also talked sports. Mike loved football. We also talked sports with his late brother, Tony, who I miss. Over the last couple of years, a few of us would go periodically down to the Chesapeake to visit with Mike and witness his wonderful mind weakening. Most of the time, he would know your name, and a couple times he would not. But either way, he always looked you in the eye, gave you that priceless Mike Levitt smile, and would grab your hand. Mike, love you, miss you, but we'll always remember you, and thank you for so much.
Thank you, Joe. Next, I would like to invite some members of the Levitt family. Sharon and Denny Levitt will come to the podium and read a letter written by their daughter Samantha, who was unable to be here today, to help us understand her commitment and her memories of Mike Levitt. Are you going to come up? Okay.
As Bob has said, Sam couldn't be here. So I'm going to read this for her. If Mike were here today, and any one of us would ask him, how are you? His response would be, terrific. Yeah, I will.
Okay. I'll start again.
Okay.
If Mike were here today, any one of us were to ask him, how are you? His response would be terrific. I study language because I think it tells us a lot about who we are. The word terrific comes from the Latin terrier, meaning to fill with fear. Later, its meaning shifted. English people used it to describe something huge of size and power. For example, a terrific storm. By the early 20th century, it evolved into an enthusiastic term meaning excellent, amazing, or impressive. Mike's impact on our lives had that immensity of size and power. He was truly larger than life. Everything we did together with him over the course of our lives, all the adventures we experienced, all the places we went, all the cherished memories he made with us, has so enriched our lives. Mike's impact as a role model for all of us served as an example of where to set the bar. With admiration and respect for his standard of integrity, drive, and ambition, we too were inspired to be terrific. Each of us in our own way, at some point, have been terrifically, there's that word again, inspired to make the most out of life's opportunities. His achievements were the result of extraordinary ability to seize from life all it had to offer. We have so many great memories with Mike. While we have been fishing together a lot, sail fishing in Guatemala was my first big game fishing experience. Imagine the rush when my line buzzed and bent into the Pacific. My instinct was to pull back as hard as I could and reel like there was no tomorrow. Mike came up behind me in the fighting chair and put his hands over mine. "Christ, you can't pull the fish to the boat," he said. "You're not going to beat him in the game of tug of war. Giving the line is what catches the big fish." From the way he dressed, to the way he worked, to how he approached his passions, Mike never did anything with mediocrity. In every undertaking, he was not merely good, he was great. For us, he has always been and forever will remain the great inspiration of how to live a fulfilling and meaningful life. He made everything he touched into something extraordinary because he inherently understood that we get out of life exactly the amount of passion we put into it. Through him, we have come to understand that extraordinary people practice what he said about giving the line. That it's not people who have much who are wealthy, but people who give much. People who see clearly the direct equation between dedication and possibility. In the act of giving lies one's expression of aliveness. And boy, did he bring his aliveness to everything and everyone he touched. And so, our understanding of what made Mike remarkable, his generosity of spirit that made him and will forever define him as undeniably terrific.
All right, thank you, and same answer, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon and Danny. As we think about now our next speaker, I start with the words, "In the beginning, there was a dream." And Mike Levitt's dream was to create a development company. He needed an office, he needed staff, and he needed an attorney. An attorney who could be a friend, an attorney he could trust, an attorney to ensure all the development ideas we were coming up with were created and protected by law. Our next speaker is that person, Mike's trusted friend and attorney. He is among the first people I met after joining Mike. In fact, he and I still joke today about he's the one who wrote my employment agreement. Still today I say this, his knowledge of law and housing development and working with others was a critical influence on our organization. His wisdom was always good, was always professional, and solid as a rock. Please welcome our next speaker, Mike's attorney and best friend, Lee Levin.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I wrote what I thought was a decent speech, but as soon as I saw Greer, and then I heard John McDonald, I knew I was screwed. So, I'm gonna first say, this is probably, other than when, Mike's other son died, this is probably the first day, and we had flew out to, California where he was with Mike and Pat. This is the first day when I was involved with Mike that there was anything sad going on, because Mike didn't let anything sad go on. He was terrific. Couple other things. One thing, and by the way, I reiterate exactly what John said about Pat. When Mike once said to me, he said, the second best thing I ever did was John. The first was Pat. And I certainly understand that. My other thing is not so positive. It's about my partner, Paul Chan, who, by the way, when you say Mike's best friend, Mike didn't have, he had like a duality of friends, and Paul, over the last 15 or 20 years, has been closer to Mike than anybody in here could possibly imagine. But I'm a little pissed at Paul too, because Pat has to limit the number of people speaking, and Paul and I were deciding which one, and I suggested that Paul B make the speech, and Paul said, no, me. I can't follow the accent I've seen before, but I'll do my best, and very quickly. In all seriousness, Mike has been an unbelievable friend, mentor, a guy I've loved and valued for my whole life. Somebody touched on his integrity and honesty, and it's funny because he used to kid that he was a two-story developer. One story till he could get the deal, and then the second story after that. That's exactly the opposite of the way he was. And we, as his attorneys, I'm talking about Paul, talking about Art Brown, and the other people in the office, we knew that we could rely on Mike, and that Mike would always back us up and never be critical, nasty, anything like that. But not only did we know it, but all the housing people, all the state agencies, HUD, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they all knew they could trust Mike. If anything was going on and Mike wasn't there, and we said, Mike blesses this, it didn't have to be in writing. And that's something that Mike, I think, was very proud of. And Warren Buffett once said, it takes a whole life to build a reputation. And excuse me for having the same emotions that Joe had, but I've been having them all day today. Warren Buffett once said, it takes a whole life to make a reputation and one false move to ruin it. And there was no chance Mike was ever going to ruin it. I've been representing Mike for over 60 years in his first iteration where he was partners with Jack Sobel and Mike was the operating partner. And next iteration when they sold out to a large housing developer who then failed in the business, and Mike took it over and made it the success that you guys have all said. And what he's done for me, for my law partners, for my wife and he, who have traveled all over the world with him, from Australia with him and Pat, I might say, from Australia to Hawaii to Africa, Canada, California, everywhere. He's had such an effect on the lives of so many people that it's unbelievable. And I want to thank Pat and Mike because he's helped educate Sandy and me in charities, and on a much more scale than Mike, we're doing everything we can, especially in our local area. And I think a lot of people are following Mike's example in that. I will mention one story about Mike on fishing. We were fishing with Mike, and Joe's already mentioned, Joe and John have already mentioned his marlin stories. We were in Australia. Mike wanted to catch a black marlin on 1 kg test, which is a line that's literally weaker than dental floss. And I'm not being funny when I say that. And so Mike rented a seaplane. We flew out to the Barrier Reef. Somebody picked us up. And by the way, when we flew, Mick will appreciate this. We flew with his father-in-law, Paul Whalen, who was afraid of flying. And we were flying in this not too large seaplane. And I won't even get into the flight home, which was a little shaky, especially for poor Paul. But when we get out to the Barrier Reef, we boat through some rough waters to find the marlin. Mike finally catches it. By the way, the mate on the boat was the only person otherwise to catch a black marlin on 1 kg test, and it was the boat captain's wife who was as good as a captain on the boat. That was part of the experiences with Mike, which were always good. The other thing is, when I tell you this is the first negative day with Mike because of the upset of knowing we're never going to see him again, is Mike's complete and utter positivity. He never wanted to say anything negative about anything. We were in Africa, sometimes living in tents, sometimes in little houses, and the food was okay. But Mike was a wine connoisseur, and he would order wine every night. One night was shakier than the next, and Mike would pour the wine, he would take a little bit in his glass, he would swirl it around, he would taste it, and he would say, what is it, Mike? He'd say, okay, good. Okay, good is Mike speak. That means it's horrendous. But you'll never hear anything like, you would and can't hear anything like that from Mike. So I just want to say, Mike, you've had such a positive effect on so many people. Nobody could ever tell you, rest easy, Mike.
Thank you, Lee. And hi, Paul. We're happy to have you here as well. Pat Levitt has experienced a whole lot of life being with Mike. You just see the reflection on her face, how good, how committed, and how exciting it was. But she had other friends too. She had a group of friends that started out as a group when they were in grade school. And over all these years, they still are enjoying life together, seek times to support each other, enjoy times away together. And we have one person to represent that whole group, affectionately called the girls. I invite Mary Beth Monastero to come up. Oh, they're all coming. I stand corrected. All the girls are coming. Only one speaking. Okay.
It's like this all the time. Okay. Like Pat says, like herding cats. Hello, I'm Mary Beth, Pat's friend. I am honored to speak on behalf of Pat's Friends, a group that, despite our age, is called the Girls. We would like to extend our sincere sympathy to Pat and the entire family. Mike was an amazing husband, father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. Professionally, Mike was brilliant, but to all of us, he was just Mike, Pat's husband. Mike loved to make Pat happy. And being with the girls makes Pat happy. We loved to dance, so there were parties at the Great Escape, and we danced. We loved to sing, so Mike patiently listened, sometimes with a pained look on his face, but not often. He knew we were Catholic schoolgirls, all of Irish descent, so he made sure we traveled to Ireland. Once, when seeing us off to Ireland, he carefully observed us while we were beyond excited leaving for our trip. He had tears in his eyes. He was so happy for us. We will never forget that. We enjoyed Mike's special brand of humor. When he did something nice for us and we said thank you, he would say, "You're welcome, but don't get used to it." Compliment him on his clothes and he would say, "One more payment and it's mine." Mike had a beautiful smile that made you feel like you were in on something wonderful. He was smart, unbelievably generous, and loyal. He was a true friend. It is right to mourn. It is also right to celebrate, because Mike's life did not simply pass through ours, it changed ours. Jill, Charlie, Ashley, Alexis and family, and Chaz and Brittany, Sharon, Denny and family, your love, support, and visits were so appreciated by Mike and Pat. Phoebe, AJ, Irie, Mika, Thais, thanks for including Gigi in your adventures. She is truly the happiest when she is together with all of you. We'd like to thank Pat's angels, Nancy, Roms, Earl, Cutter, and everyone else at the Great Escape who helped Mike live with dignity and comfort during the last years of his life. Thank you to Pat's niece, Kelly, for her help and unwavering loyalty. Pat, you were an advocate for Mike and you were a warrior for him. We are so proud of you. I'd like to share with you a writing by the author, A.A. Milne. I truly believe this is something Mike could have said to Pat. If there ever is a tomorrow when we're not together, there is something you must always remember. You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. But the most important thing is, even if we're apart, I'll always be with you. We all love you, Pat, and we will always have your back. Mike, thank you for everything. Farewell, my friend, for now. Thank you.
We're an attractive group of ladies, the girls. Many years ago, Mike considered, as you've already heard, going out a little further, thinking of the Michaels organization to grow not just from an East Coast company, but to become a national organization. This is a great opportunity, but that was all new for us to go national. And Mike, I think, recognized more than the rest of us the importance of national relationships and a changing political environment that we all had to work in then. Our next speaker brought both understanding and a pathway to achieve this goal and work as a national organization. His insight into the national political scene helped all of us for a changing environment to achieve success. He is a person of great strength, amazing wisdom, and a real close, loyal friend of Mike Levitt. Ladies and gentlemen, I recognize and invite to the podium George Norcross.
Good evening. This is my first Irish celebration. Pat told me that it was going to be exciting. I was expecting cocktails during the celebration. I guess we all have to wait. Who in this room would not hope to live into their 90s and be as happy as Mike Levitt was? I would take that right now. He had an amazing life. Pat gave him an amazing life. Now, John O'Donnell, this thing about failure, I remember Mike saying to me, failure is not an option. I remember Mike Levitt saying to me, second place is first loser. I never got that kind of speech or advice that came to me. Let me tell you a story about a young kid. He was in his mid-20s. He got to meet Mike Levitt through an introduction of another legend named Herb Barness, who some of you might remember. A great man, partners with Mike many years ago. I was that young kid, and Mike Levitt gave me an opportunity. He treated me like a son. We worked together all these years. I remember Bob, Jim Henderson, Lee, back in those days, a long time ago. I would not be standing here if it wasn't for Mike and Pat Levitt. He gave me a chance, he gave me an opportunity. And I'll forever remember him as the father figure he was to me. The morning that Pat called, about an hour later, I went to Mass. And I'm not normally moved at a Mass in the morning. It's a peaceful moment for me. And I want to read you what I took a picture of and thought of that very morning, an hour afterwards. What is the Sacred Heart? The world speaks of the heart as the root of our emotions. Yet when we speak of someone with a big heart, we mean much more. We're referring to the source of their love, their generosity, their kindness, and their way of interacting with others. It is in this sense that we talk about the Sacred Heart of Michael Levitt. That's what I thought of, and that's what I read that morning. And I thought today I would read that to you, which sums up the best I can think. Let me conclude by saying, God bless the King and long live the Queen, Pat Levitt.
Thanks, George. It's another time, another moment to enjoy some music. So I invite Chaz and Phoebe and Sarah and Art back to the platform to perform some music. Teach your children well.
You who are on the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye, and teach your children well. Their father's help will slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they pick, the ones you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry, so just look at them and sigh, and know they love you. And you, of the tender years, and know the fears that your elders grew by, and so please help them with your youth. They seek the truth before they can die, and teach your parents well. Their children's hell will slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they pick, the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry, so just look at them and sigh, and know they love you.
Thank you to this group for bringing such a good source of music and a great message. And our next speakers, this is going to be a special moment, are brought to us by AJ and Phoebe's daughters, who will come to the podium and read a couple of poems for us today. One poem by Irie and Mika, and another poem by Thais. So if they were to come up, and we'll figure out a microphone to enable them to read these poems to us.
This first poem is anonymous and untitled. He walked in quiet ways the world could trust, hands that soothed a steady certain light. His laughter lived where winter feared to rust, a gentle harbor in the rising night. He sowed small mercies, seeds of thought and care, and tended others' wounds without demand. In ordinary moments, pure and rare, he left them out with kindness in his hand. Now chairs sit empty where his stories grew. The table keeps the echo of his cup. Grief charts its course in colors deep and true, while memory learns how to not give him up. Not gone, his name is threaded through our days. In passing gestures, patience, humbled heart. A quiet courage found in daily ways. A lesson burning softly in the heart. Rest where the light that loved him rests. Dear father, husband, friend, let sorrow shape the treasure that you keep, and live on the good he began to lend, and carry forward what he planted deep. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your field. Until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.
Super duper. That was sweet, and we loved it. Mike's family is filled with gifted people. You just heard some. And within each generation, another personality comes forward, comes to the scene with fresh ideas, with new enthusiasm, and an eagerness to make a contribution to the organization. Sometimes balancing numbers and getting facts straight are just not enough to make a deal. Personality and a positive attitude are often additional required tools. Mike used to say, you can't make a deal work just by willing it. You got to work hard and contribute time. Our next speaker brought such talent and more to the Michaels organization. I'm proud to welcome Chaz Ramos to the podium to share his memories.
I don't know what we're paying them, but worth every dollar. Jeez. You know, it's amazing. You know, we just told stories about how Mike is larger than life. You know, chasing world records with Captain Bonnie or Paul Whelan at the helm of the boat, conquering affordable housing with so many people in this room. Mike was a superhero. And so many of us today received life-changing opportunities and mentorship from him. He elevated us. He taught us to be better than we ever thought possible. And today we honor his legacy by lifting up others. We're reminded of our own duty to pay it forward. More than a superhero. Superheroes are something from a comic book. Mike's greatest strength was his profound humanity, marked by his integrity and his passion. His compassion for others and his tenacity for life and for helping. He was a giant of a man with an even bigger heart. And he treasured those he loved. And simply being in his presence made our lives better for it. You know, they say that people will forget. They might remember some of what you did. They might remember some of what you said. More than anything else, they're going to remember the way you made them feel. And his impact was real. I mean, he was a man of few words, but he made his family feel loved, valued, and important. He felt it in our bones. So for my sister Alexis, there's no words for the heaviness in her heart today. But not too long ago, she poured her heart and soul into paper. She wrote Mike a letter, saying everything she ever wanted to say to him, to her Mikey. And if you know Mike, he doesn't call you very often. He picked up the phone and called her in tears to thank her, to tell her how much it meant to him, to how she touched him. Just a letter. She's somebody who's loved him her whole life. You know, my sister can find comfort knowing that Mike left this world with a beautiful and perfect understanding of how much he meant to her, how grateful she was for him, and how deeply he was loved in return. Alexis, Ashley, and I were blessed to call him our Mikey. We were called him grandfather, he was a Mikey. And just as Alexis ended her letter a few years ago, we say it in today. We love you yesterday, today, and always. Many of you know my sister Ashley, who works here. For Ashley, Mike was sunshine in the office. He would stop by her desk just to make her smile. And it made her feel incredibly, extraordinarily special. He would pull her tight, give a loving hug, just to say I love you. Give her a little playful pat on the tush. Because that was Mikey. Yeah. Charlie welcomed Mike with open arms. They built relationships, sharing honest and deeply meaningful conversations, learning from each other. Charlie felt unwavering love for Mike and the trust between them. Mike wasn't just a friend to Charlie. He was the rarest, best kind of friend a man could ask for. The blessing wasn't just knowing Mike on an intimate, personal level. It was getting to witness the profound father and daughter love that Mike shared with Jill, a powerful and unbreakable bond. Bond built straight from their hearts. And for Jill, she never called him Mike. She never called him Mikey to her. He was simply her daddy. When she would wake up at night as a child with bad dreams, she would sneak into the bedroom, go straight to her daddy's side. She would gently touch his shoulder. Without hesitation, he would lift the heavy blanket, hold her close, and cuddle her. Sorry. He would kiss her forehead and whisper, everything will be all right. He made her feel safe and secure and unconditionally loved from the moment she was born. Jill knows how incredibly lucky she is to carry the eternal memory of his handsome smile and those deep, iconic dimples safely in her heart forever. I've long asked myself, why did I get so lucky to have him in my family as a mentor? Who am I to receive that strong, loving hand which he so graciously extended? How it shaped the trajectory of my life. He taught me the weight of hard work and the absolute necessity of living with integrity and the sacred truth that your handshake must mean something. I've tried to love to the honor of being his grandson. And one of my final memories with him, I sat quietly beside him and played guitar as he drifted off for a nap. And I sang to him, when you finally fly away, I'll be hoping that I wished you well. For the wisdom of a lifetime, no one else could tell. Because whatever road I choose, he was always behind me. Win or lose, forever young. Mikey lived a life of grace and grit, an unstoppable heart, and in his heart, in our hearts, he will always stay forever young. From Jill, Charlie, Ashley, Alexis, Albert, Alessandro, Jovan, Mike. We wish you eternal peace and boundless love. We love you. I think we all have ways we experience life to touch our lives. Like I said, I don't know how I got dealt this hand of life, but it's special. It's special to everybody in this room. And after I sang to him that day when we were leaving, I looked him in the eyes and said, "Goodbye, Mike. I love you, buddy." Like I always do. And he paused and looked at me. He held his eyes to my eyes. He saw it as clear as he ever had. He says, "I love you too, buddy." So from all of us, again, we wish you eternal peace and boundless love. I love you, buddy.
Thank you, Chaz. I can't remember a time when our next speaker wasn't an important part of the scene. Time I spent with Pat and Mike frequently included a peek into his life, his talents, his activities, his love for Phoebe, their growing children, his humility and warm smile have always gone hand in hand, offering his friendship and his goodwill to everybody. Mike's love for him was both seen and felt. They respected and supported each other every single day. It's a privilege for me now to welcome our final speaker, who always made a difference when he comes into the room. He's a good friend. Mike frequently referred to him as my son. Ladies and gentlemen, A.J. Bocchino.
Hello, everybody. I'll make this short because you know Mike will be chomping at the bit by now. Mike was my dad for 44 years, since I was 8 years old. From the beginning, I always got along so well with Mike. We didn't really have any bad days. It was always easy, fluid between us, the best of friends. He gave me the most extraordinary life. I can't really express how much gratitude I have. I cannot believe how lucky I was to have such an incredible role model to emulate growing up. What a unique and special individual to learn about life from. He taught me about food, girls, honesty, loyalty, unbelievable generosity, dedication to family, how to treat people the right way, how to be a class act. He had massive integrity. Mike was always Mike. He had such a zest for life. He made me realize how amazing, really amazing life is. And life was mostly terrific. Mike and my mom were a great example for Phoebe and I of a dedicated, loving couple. You don't get more than they got from their life together. True soulmates. They ultimately made me a much better parent and a better person. And they were always so supportive of Phoebe's and my artwork. Mike and my mom did this really generous thing for me and then Phoebe later on. They let us be who we are. I'm also so happy I had so much time with him and that he was in my life for so long. He got to know my 3 wonderful daughters. We had so many great trips with my mom and then with Phoebe, and then all the fishing trips with the family and the awesome folks at TMO. I loved being his roommate and fishing partner on all those trips. We all loved his quirks and eccentricities. They are kind of legendary. He loved the little fork. He liked to tell his waiter at a restaurant he was going to order a lot of food and wasn't going to eat it all, so don't get excited. He liked to order his black decaf coffee after dinner, and he always said, "Whenever you get a chance," which meant, "Hurry up, I want it right now." He was always so impeccably dressed in big, bold, beautiful colors, red and green and orange and purple and gold. He was always on point. He always talked about piss pot dogs, but he and my mom had like 5 of them over the last 20 years or so. For him, most wines were okay good, and we loved how after he drank a wine he liked, he'd say, "H, give me a case of that." When he ate something he liked, it was freaking gourmet. He loved his burnt French fries, ginormous oysters, and when my mom would ask him about something or other, she'd say, "Mike," and he'd say, "Mike what?" He also liked to say, "You're murder," if you asked him to do something he didn't want to do. He definitely liked to say this to Roms and Earl, the exceptional caretakers who took exquisite care of Mike at the end of his life. What a long, incredible life. What an amazing man. A legend of legends. My hero. As Fab Five Freddy said about the artist Jean-Michel Basquiat, he burned really bright. Then the fire went out, but the embers are still hot. That's how I like to think of Mike. His long, amazing life burned super bright, and the hot embers left being all of the vivid memories and Mike Levitt moments we all share. I will miss that big, beautiful, electric Mikey smile. I will miss watching him eat his beloved oysters with gusto, drink his Macallan, and look at my mom with that intense love and say, "I'm crazy about you, kid." And I know I will still see him in the Chesapeake sunset when a bald eagle flies by, in the light of my beautiful mom's eyes, and in all of you here tonight. The flame of Mike lives inside you. And now I'd say, "Mike, you want a drink?" And he'd say, "Is the Pope Catholic?"
Thank you, AJ. I'd like to thank everybody who participated in this celebration of Mike's life. And I want to thank all of you for attending and supporting Mike's family. And now, as we leave this place, let's try to carry Mike's spirit with us and the kindness we show to others and the stories we continue to tell and share together. And take a portion of Mike's life with us in our hearts, where his influence and his love and his spirit will live forever. Hear these words. The cares of the world concern me no more. I have completed this life, and my work is done. I have loved much and loved well to all those I leave behind. I hope I will remain in your hearts as you will remain in mine. Thank you for taking such good care of me in this life. And now, go in peace, and in the blessings of this day. Thank you, Mike. Farewell, my friend. I believe we're going to have some video now, reminiscing with Mike all the days and the lives and the activities that he enjoyed and shared with us.
How do you know you've got such a wonderful instinct about it, but how would you tell other people to follow their nose or their...
Well, I wouldn't want to tell anybody my secrets now, so that no. How do you grow?
Yeah.
Well, you grow with people. Our whole business is the people that work in our company, and we're family. We're family. Well, I got to work hard. I got to work hard. There's no substitute for the time you put in and working hard. You got to work hard, and you got to like what you're doing. You got to be passionate and like what you're doing. I know people that are dentists, and they hate every day that they go to work, and I can't believe anybody would do that. But so you got to love what you're doing, and you got to work hard, and be fair and honest. Yeah, be fair and honest. We're totally fair. We're totally honest, and we've built up a reputation. I have for 50 years that everybody knows that my handshake is as good as somebody's contract. So you got to be fair and honest. And work hard. Have a good time.
What would you like your legacy to be?
My kids doing what they want to do, which is what they're doing. Our charitable foundation being meaningful for many, many years after I'm gone. Giving this company or selling this company at a bargain price to the employees so they build up their own legacies and their own estates. I think that's a great legacy. I do.
You are all invited to a reception that'll be opening up soon, and then to enjoy a dinner together. Thank you again for being here.